What's up? Um, Today is March 8th. It's Friday, March the 8th. And I figured I'd make a similar video to one that I made almost 2 years ago. The video I made almost 2 years ago was pertaining specifically about Atlanta versus Philadelphia, which was better. This video isn't necessarily about that only. I'm going to touch on specifically living in the suburbs versus living in the inner city, more of a urban area. Also the hood, specifically the hood urban area. Where do I start? So many different things I could touch on. Now, me personally, just because of the way that I was brought up, I'm comfortable with living in the inner cities. I'm extremely comfortable, and I should say relaxed, majority of the time, living in the hood. Whereas some people get to be my age and they want no parts of the inner city. Whatever community they grew up in, if it was a bad community, a lot of poverty, crime, things of that nature, then naturally, when they seek to buy a new home, they're going to try to find something that's the complete opposite of that. And I agree with that. My only issue is, specifically in my situation, my biggest issue is my location is so far from where I originally grew up. Like, if you don't know by now, I'm in the state of Georgia. I'm in the suburbs of Atlanta, also known as Metro Atlanta. And compared to where I grew up, it's extremely slow here. There's that term, slow. Like, my neighbors don't make a lot of noise. There's oftentimes where I look out the window and I don't see anybody outside. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't have to be nighttime for me to look outside and don't see anything going on. Where I grew up in Philly, I grew up in North Philly, was the complete opposite of that. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning and it could be people sitting outside their house having conversations. It could be people walking up and down the steps. You will hear buses, public transportation that may run all night or maybe run to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll hear buses going by. It's always something going on in the city. And that's like one of the biggest differences in moving to a suburban area. Now, again, there's a lot of people that is yearning for that. They can't wait to go somewhere that's quiet. And I understand that. I've also heard people that have transitioned into suburban areas and they felt as though it was too quiet. They couldn't get comfortable because it was just too quiet. And they're just so unused to that. That's so out of the ordinary from where they grew up at. Then, they uncomfortable just not hearing anything or not seeing anybody. So there's a lot of pros and cons with transitioning from the inner city to a suburban area. There's a lot of stereotypes that suburban areas have, primarily a lot of white people. Depending on what suburban area you move into, that is true. Now, I told you, me personally, I'm in the Metro Atlanta area, and it's very diverse. If anything, the neck of the woods that I'm in has probably more black people than white, but there's a lot of white people. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of even. It's an even playing field. If anything, it may be more black people in the side that I'm on. Where I'm at, south of Atlanta, it's. I was thinking about this the other day. I was going to Google it to see what the crime rate is here. Even specifically like the murder rate. And I haven't done my homework on that, but I don't ever hear about anything. When I do watch the local news, I still watch news in Philly. Like the Philly news, I stream it. But when I do watch the local news here, like I don't hear about a lot of crimes in the immediate area that I'm in. Definitely not murders. Or even shootings or crimes with guns. Now, the flip side of that, what I had to get used to coming down here is you might see a gun every day on a daily basis. You can be at Chuck E. Cheese. You can be at the grocery store, which is Kroger. Walmart. You could be at a family restaurant, anywhere. And somebody can have a gun and a holster on their hip. It's illegal to carry down here. And you don't have to conceal it. You can have it out in the open, like it's part of your attire, it's part of your clothing. You can get a holster to match what you're wearing that day and have your gun there. I don't get it. Me personally, never being a gun owner. Of course, I'm from the hood, so yeah, there was guns on every block, and every other person probably had a gun in the hood, but you didn't see them. Once you saw somebody's gun in the hood, and then some drama about to happen, something's about to go down, and you just get out the way, get down or something. So yeah, everybody probably had a gun in the hood, yeah, every other person, but you did not see them. Okay, people kept them concealed and hidden, or in their cars or whatever, or on their body somewhere stuck, but you didn't just see people just walking down the street, going to the, with flip-flops on, with a gun on their hip, like this the Wild Wild West. So it's taken me some time to get used to this, and I don't think I ever get used to this because I don't really agree with it. I don't agree with it. That's one thing. That's not necessarily a suburban thing. That's I think that's like a Georgia thing. In certain states, they do have, you can carry laws. Speaking of stores, I'm used to going to like poppy stores. I know like in Northeast or in New York, they call them bodegas and stuff like that. Little small convenience stores, also known as mom and pop stores. They don't have any of those here. They don't have none. Not in the metro Atlanta area. They don't have any. There's a lot of things that I had to get used to that I necessarily didn't have to deal with in Philadelphia to have to adjust to down here. Now, I'm going to tell you some of the cons about being in the inner city. There's the obvious. There's a lot of crime. It can be dangerous. You know what I mean? Everybody's on top of each other. Philly has the row homes. I think I told this story before in a previous video, but I went to Philly and visited with a friend of mine, somebody I met down here, and he saw the row homes, and he thought they were apartments. And I said, well, some of these are apartments. If they turned them into apartments, it might be like a duplex. But I said, the majorities that you are seeing are houses. And he really couldn't believe that people lived in houses that he felt as though were so small and they were so close together. But that's the way of life. That's the inner city way of life. People from Baltimore, Washington, New York, they understand that. But if you were raised in the South, you don't see that too much. You don't really see it at all unless you visually you visit or you seen it on TV or something. But to me, I'm used to it. You know what I mean? I'm used to, in the middle of the day, I might hear my neighbors play their music or have an argument. Don't bother me. I might turn my music up or turn my television up or go to sleep or something. That they ignore the fact that they're making noise over there. I just adjust. You know, and I think a lot of people in Philly are that way. You know, you just got to mind your business. We all close together. Mind your business. You know what I mean? It's the life that we've been given that we have to make the best of. In suburban areas, you don't really have to deal with that. As far as people being friendly down here, that Southern hospitality thing, it's a little truth to that. There's some truth to that. But I'm not going to go and say that people from the city are mean. You know what I mean? Or they don't speak. Like, everybody, for the most part, speaks down here. Everybody. I find myself speaking, and I'm not racist, I find myself speaking to a lot of white people, saying good morning and hello and stuff like that. And sometimes, and I may initiate it and say it first. Usually I do. Especially when I'm at work and something like that. But I often wonder, how often am I speaking to somebody that doesn't even like black people? That's probably racist. That just runs through my mind. But they speak back. Every now and then somebody act like they didn't hear me and then, you know, don't say anything. But that's rare. But, you know, I've been walking in the street, walking my dog. And down here, people have waved to me that I didn't even know, men and women. You know, it's just, it is some truth to that Southern hospitality and, you know, people being polite and nice down here. I can't say in Philly that, you know, I haven't had people beep the horn or wave to me that didn't know me. Usually when that happened, though, in the city, though, they do know me. I've had people offer me a ride down here. A few times I was walking and I wanted to walk, and because where I'm at is no public transportation, so I was walking not nowhere far, and I've had people pull over and say, do you need a ride? That has happened, and I believe they were on the up and up or whatever. Happened at least 3 times. For the most part, that has never happened to me in Philly. One time I was broken down in Philly, and I was on the side of the road with my car, and you know, a couple of people pulled over and said that I need help. But actually, just walking in the street, nobody's ever in Philly pulled over and said, "Do you need a ride?" Unless I knew him or something. I don't know. I could go on and on about the differences and things, and I really didn't get into anything that's key. The cost of living. We all know inner city row homes, for the most part, if they haven't been kept up and the neighborhood isn't the best, specifically in Philadelphia, you probably can spend anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000 and get a fair, decent house that probably needs some work, but you probably can buy it cash money, $60,000 to $80,000. If a lot of renovations have been done and the area is going through gentrification or something like that, you may find yourself paying over $100,000. Specifically, there's an area in North Philadelphia called Northern Liberties where they have $1 million homes. There's row homes, but the neighborhood is really on the up and up, and you know, there's a lot of working class people in the communities, and not too much drugs visually that you'll see, probably none that you'll visually see, but you know, it's there, but you won't visually see it. Versus in more hood type neighborhoods where houses probably not going over 100,000, probably not going over 80. You know, you may have a corner or a block or an area that you know is like a drug zone, and you know what goes on in those areas. Being from Philly, you automatically can tell what those areas are, because they usually don't change too much. They, if this block gets raided or shut down, they just won't open up again around the corner. They're not going to go too far to lose their clientele. So the point I was trying to make with that is, where the drug areas are, where the bad areas are. Where if you want to buy a home for cheap, you better do your research and do your homework, or just have some already knowledge to know this is going to be a high drug crime area or whatever. So I don't recommend you do that. But I do recommend it if you do want to move somewhere like Philly and experience that, or you live in Philly, you don't plan on going anywhere. I recommend that you do your homework and find an area where you may can get a deal on a home, but it's probably going through some type of gentrification thing where businesses are going to come in. The city has plans to clean up. There's a lot of abandoned homes and things in Philadelphia. They have plans on knocking those homes down, or fixing them up if they can, and where there's going to be growth in building. That's the type of places you want to invest in Philadelphia. And it's a lot of that. It's a lot of people getting rich from old neighborhoods that was falling apart and dilapidated, and homes were getting sold for $10,000 and $15,000 and maybe even $5,000, stuff like that, where it's a fixer-upper, of course, but they just throwing parts and throwing contractors in these houses, and within a year having somebody in these houses and they're making money, and they're going to make their money within a year. No more than 2 years, they're going to make all their money back and just keep making profit, or they flip them. But they're definitely making big money and profits off of houses that were in bad condition, and the city's practically giving these houses away if they have to take them from people. My family lost a house, which I'm saddened about. I don't even really want to talk about it, but my family members passed away, and my family lost a house similar to a situation like that. I feel like it was stolen from us by the city, but the person that bought that house got it for dirt cheap. And they're going to make a lot of money off the house. In the suburbs, you're not going to find no house for no $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 unless it just had fire damage or something. Even then, they still probably going to want $60,000 to $100,000. Of the house, because the land is going to be worth more than the average house in Philly because of the area. More than likely, in the suburban area, in the metro Atlanta area, if it's a quiet, clean neighborhood, which more than likely that's what it is, and the house was damaged or something like that, the land is still worth a whole lot of money to rebuild. So I don't know. I prefer the inner city. Me personally. That's where my roots are. That's where my family and friends, the majority of my family and friends are. So it's not much for me in the suburbs. And I'm not that old yet where I feel like, I just want to hear quietness. I don't want to hear a bus. I don't want to hear a baby crying. I don't want to hear nothing. I'm not one of those people where I get angry because I hear people exist. I have a neighbor now. I don't know what they went through. I think they're from New York, actually. And they're kind of rude. The only rude neighbors I actually have in this area that I know of. And they don't really like to speak. And they keep to themselves, which is keeping to yourself is good, because I pretty much keep to myself too. But I'm polite to everybody. I speak to everybody. Say good morning, hello, and keep it moving, keep it pushing. These particular neighbors, I don't want to draw the story out, but it got to the point where I know now not to even speak to them anymore. Because that's what type of time they're on. They don't even want to speak. Because I guess they're in their own little world where they leave out their house, get into their car, go wherever they're going, go to work, wherever, and go back in, and they don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to be disturbed. So if you were outside their house, like, they would lose their mind in Philadelphia. They would lose their mind in the city. They in the right place where nobody's going to really bother them. Nobody's going to say anything to them. Nobody's going to knock on their door for anything. So I don't know what they were going through before they lived in the situation they are live in the situation they're in now. Maybe they was constantly getting bothered or harassed or whatever. But they're in a perfect situation for themselves. Maybe one day I'm gonna tell that story. I'm not gonna tell it in this video. It's been 20 minutes already. It's a funny story. Weird and odd people, but I'm not gonna tell a story now. This is one of them rambling videos, kind of. I was talking about stuff, home life, or whatever. I like talking about my previous living situation versus where I'm living at now. You know, nobody bothers me here. It's boring. I hate to use that word, boring. I think that's a, you know, kind of a childish word. I hate when my kids use that term. But it is. It's boring. At one point, I felt like I was living in a prison. In comparison to where I lived at before, because down here when I first moved here I didn't know anybody, and I still really don't know anybody now. You know, I know coworkers, but I can't say I have a friend, like a real friend that I would hang with down here. I've met a few people that I know their name, they know my name, but I don't really have a friend down here for real. And so it was boring to me. I was used to, you know, calling a friend up in Philly. And what you doing? Nothing. What you doing? Nothing. All right. Watching the game later? Yeah. Let's get together, get some wings, some steaks, a couple drinks, and we call a couple other friends, and now we chilling. We ain't having a party, but you know, we chilling and watching games, talking smack, having a great time. You know what I mean? All safe fun. And down here, I didn't have that outlet. I didn't have an option to pick up the phone and call a friend and go chill, sitting on their steps or sitting in the living room watching TV, chilling, watching a game. You know, I was dolo by myself chilling. Now, I got children down here, whatever, you know, my kids, but it's not like that male companionship, my friends, you know, kicking it with my buddies. So, or even, you know, going to a family member's house. I don't really have that luxury or that option. So I was primarily in the house every day, just picking my kids up from school, going to Walmart, Kroger, before I took on a job. You know, I was ready to go volunteer somewhere and work for free just to get out the house and have something to do other than sitting in the house 24/7. You know, other than just, like, there was a couple things I just said, picking my kids up from school or taking them to school or going to Kroger. Like, it still to this day, actually going to Kroger is like in Walmart, that's like entertaining. You know what I mean? That's like entertaining down here because, like I said, I don't really do much. I'm not into the club scene. I'm not going into the city in Atlanta and go to clubs because I wasn't doing that in Philly. I wasn't going to bars and clubs anymore. You know what I mean? I outgrew that, me personally. But so I'm not down here going to go-go clubs or, you know, bars or none of these so-called popping clubs down here. You know, but I do still enjoy, like I said, the company of friends and family, and I don't have that here. So for the people that have that here, then I guess, you know, there's really not much for them to complain about, especially the ones that grew up down here. They cool, you know, but that quiet, they're looking out the window and nothing going, no traffic, nobody, car go by every now and once in a blue moon. Might hear a truck making a delivery every now and then. That quiet does get to you when you're used to the opposite of that. You know what I mean? Alright, if you have any comments or you like this video, you may not like it. May be boring to you. Could be. I think me talking about some of this stuff is boring sometimes, but still needs to be discussed. I make videos for a reason. Slightly entertainment, it's enlightening, it's educational, depends on how you view it. So get at me, keep watching my videos, I'll be back with more. Peace.